Real talk, real life, real sisters, and real Southern. Welcome to Southern Sisters. We're Megan, Lindsay, Courtney, and Evie. 4 sisters with 16 kids between us, running small businesses, chasing big dreams, and keeping it real along the way. Each week, we're diving into all things self-care, motherhood, business, and faith, sharing the good, the messy, and the hilarious moments that come with it. Whether you're striving for balance, chasing your dreams, or just trying to keep the kids fed, we're here to remind you that you're not alone. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's chat.
Welcome to our episodes of Southern Sisters. We are so glad you're here. Contrary to what you think, we do not wear this outfit every time to record our podcast.
We don't.
We batch record, so we record 3 to 4 episodes at a time, and
Because we're busy moms.
because we're busy moms. But it's like a party. We're gonna go out to dinner after this because obviously we still love and have things to say all the time.
This is bringing us together, so we're excited.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Right now, we are going to talk about faith and how we choose faith over fear in uncertain times. So our icebreaker question for this episode is going to be, what is something that you are afraid of?
Okay, so I used to be afraid of mice real bad for obvious reasons.
Like real bad?
Like real bad. I would just freak out when I saw a mouse. Even when I had a hamster that got out of the cage, I would like freak out and not want to go get it.
Well, they are rodents.
But now I've moved on to snakes. I really, really hate snakes. And it took a baby one in our garage coming at Jared to have us.
reignite your fear.
So now I'm just afraid of snakes.
Okay.
They're disgusting.
I think the thing that I'm most afraid of is something happening to my children.
Oh, that's a mom thing.
Yes. So, I mean, ever since I became a mom, like even now, when my child is learning to eat like finger foods and they like start, choking a little bit, you can ask Josh, but I freak out so bad. I'm like, oh my goodness, Josh. And I start screaming Josh. And the other day, like,
He's like, what are you going to do when I'm not here?
So she's good in a crisis, folks.
no, I'm terrible. But, and then the other day, I have like this small dresser next to my vanity where I keep like all of my like hair things and like nail things, and it's not like secured to the wall or anything. And I was sitting at my vanity doing my makeup, and Lennon went over there and she started like playing like opening the drawers, and it almost fell on top of her. Ugh. And you can ask my kids, I did like a blood curdling scream, and Josh was in the shower and he like runs out of the shower and he's like, what happened? But yes, so and also guys too, I think this was a mix of postpartum and having a baby like during COVID.
Yes.
But I developed a fear of like going out with my kids and like somebody coming up behind me and taking my child while I'm getting in the car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my biggest fear, is something bad happening to my kids. And now that, I have a child in school.
Yeah.
I think that stuff all the time. I
Yeah.
have those fears. Especially when I'm pregnant, I have the worst dreams. Like vivid dreams. Those are normal mom fears.
What's yours, Lens?
Right now, it's a fear of failure. For the first time in my life, it's not failure because I'm not afraid we're going to fail because I refuse to, like, no matter what happens. But I remember telling my mom a couple years ago when we opened this agency, I'm like, Mom, I've never in my life had other families depending on me for like their livelihood.
That's a heavy burden.
It's a big one that I haven't like do or die if our businesses like fail. It's just our family and we can do something else. We'll figure it out. But like to have something, and my dad was there, and I remember being like, how do you deal with that? Because he's had employees that have been with him forever. Like, how do you deal with that crushing, like you have to make it work? And he and my mom, I remember he was like, you just do whatever it takes to take care of people. He's like, would you do whatever it took to take care of them? I said, yeah. And my mom was like, okay, Lindsay, say the entire world shuts down again, because we're in the travel industry and it was just COVID. She's like, would you do something else, and would you all do it together? I'm like, actually, yeah. Like, I would figure out something to where we could all still do it. So she's like, so that's your backup plan. Like, give all your heart and soul, but if the world shuts down and everything is against your control and you can't do what you're doing anymore, what you're building is bigger than that. And that gave me so much peace and comfort. But it's just a lot of pressure. So every decision we make affects people.
That's big.
What about you?
The world shutting down. Like, I read a lot of current events and political type stuff and global world events. And I see a lot of patterns and things that I spot that have me alarmed about the state of our world. And I'm like, at what point is it going to be at my door?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, at what point are we going to feel this?
Yeah.
Because we all live in a bubble of consumerism where credit buys everything. And it's like, I feel like any day we could wake up and they could say, sorry, they decided the American dollar isn't good anymore.
Or like, what if the grid goes down?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all, yeah.
So I just worry about that because I know I've looked and I've seen a lot.
Megan, there's something y'all need to know about Megan. She's very, very, very wise. But one of her gifts is that she is a trumpet blower. My mom told me this about you. You see patterns and you see things that are happening, and you are a warner. Like, you warn people of things that you see. And I remember being like, Mom, Megan tells me things and it just makes me feel so heavy. Like, she sees things, and I finally had to tell Megan, I'm like, I can't handle this. My spirit can't handle like knowing things. That's why I can't watch the news.
Yeah, I'm the
Like,
same way.
I can't do it. It affects me way more than most people. So I remember Mom telling me, she's like, this is one of her gifts, is she sees things happening, and the best way to handle these things are to what, Megan?
Have faith
And prepare.
and prepare. And I feel like it's not that I enjoy seeing and paying attention to this stuff, but it was probably
You can't help but see
I
it.
can't help but see it. And about 10 years ago, I was watching something or listening to something that seemed like insignificant, and I just had something inside me that says, you need to pay attention to this. Like, pay attention. You need to be watching.
Yeah.
And since then, I've just kind of
Been
just
watching.
watch. Yeah.
So all of you out there, you're welcome, because we're sharing our sister with you, because she's so wise, and she's going to give you all the things that you need to know, because that is just one of your gifts. So you're welcome. We'll share her with you for a little bit, but
Okay, this is a great segue into how do we choose faith over fear in times of uncertainty? Because when you're surrounded by so much darkness and so much tragedy, how do you choose to walk the road of faith? First of all, what is faith to you?
Okay, so for me, faith is trusting in the beliefs that I have and knowing that if I'm doing my part of what God wants me to do, He is going to do His part.
faith to me is inspiration, and it's thoughts that are not my own, and asking for help, but then listening. And when those thoughts come in to my head, and when I feel that inspiration, it's like, that to me is the biggest faith thing I can do, is to take a step forward in that direction. And that takes the most faith for me. So taking a step in fear, even though I'm terrified and afraid and not sure I could do it and insecure, like, having the faith to move forward and keep doing those things has put me in a place that I never thought I'd be in. And I wish I had listened before and done that inspired action. But when you live your life in faith instead of what you think you should do, it completely changes the course of where you are. And I attribute all of that to being so happy in our life and what I'm doing now.
Well, I think I was just thinking about how am I choosing faith, and I just feel like sometimes you feel like you're convicted to do something or you're passionate about something. I just feel like there's people that have these callings and everybody is so unique and everybody has something that they are feeling led to. And I think faith for me is knowing that, you know, if I am being led to something and it's a good thing, that, you know, I believe that it's of God. And if it's good, then I keep moving forward and I keep going in that direction and trusting that it's good and that's right and it's okay, and that it's going to work out no matter what happens. That's what faith is for me.
Faith to me is a choice.
It is.
It's the ability every day to believe in something bigger than you that is leading and guiding, directing, and understanding that you can have faith in one thing that can lead to faith in everything.
Yeah.
This life, we're not meant to have all the answers.
Which is really hard for me.
It's really hard for all of us.
So frustrating.
It is.
Just give me a book. I'll read it. I'll do it.
Yep.
I found this really cool quote from C.S. Lewis. He's one of my favorite authors. My kids, we passionately love watching the Chronicles of Narnia movies. We think they're beautiful and we love watching them. And C.S. Lewis wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and all of that. But this is a quote from him. He says, "Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what he's doing. He's getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew those jobs needed doing, and so you're not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he's building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come in it himself." And I thought when I read that, like, isn't that the struggle we all have with faith? Is we get the obvious things that we know we need to work on, but then there are experiences we have and trials that we face that move and shake us up in ways that we don't like and we don't know how to handle. And it's because he's building us into who we are meant to be. And faith is walking that road to become that person that we always believed that we were.
Or better.
Okay, so when has faith carried you in life?
Well, I think for me, like when it comes to this topic, I feel like I'm still like pretty young where I haven't had like too many, I don't know, I guess really hard challenges, but I think the small ones are just as important.
Mm-hmm.
And choosing faith in those small challenges as well, because that helps with the bigger ones. And so I think for me, when I think about what's one of the, I guess, biggest challenges I've faced so far, I would say it's been, and it ties back to children, I would say for me it's been postpartum with my first two children, because they were harder babies. My first one had colic, and then my second one had reflux. And I remember one night when I got up for night feeding with my son who had the reflux, it was always like a scary time for me because he was either going to keep everything down and go to sleep, or it was all just going to come back up and be all over him, all over me, all over the bed. And then I was going to have to clean all of that up. And I remember one night, it was a night where it all came back up. It was really stressful. And I remember like, cleaning everything up. And I literally said, God, like, if you want us to multiply and replenish, why do you make it so hard? And, just have those moments of frustration. But then it also, of course, made me think that I need to draw closer to the faith that I have and to realize that motherhood is a gift. So the hard times, they strengthen me and they make me appreciate the good times, because now that I have my third, she's been a lot easier baby. And I remember that I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, I know something's going to go wrong because the first two were just so hard. But it's made me appreciate that. And I feel like if I would have had 3 easy babies, like I really would not appreciate motherhood for what it is. And also having the faith and knowing that I'm meant to be these children's mom for a reason and that they're meant to be with me for a reason. So I think that's
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you bring up opposition, because I heard something the other day. There was like a woman going through cancer, and she was just talking about how the harder your trials, the greater your capacity is to find joy.
Mm-hmm.
So like it just opens you up. The lower the lows, the higher the highs. So I think that I can look at my life and I can say it is so beautiful. And I mean, there's things that are, there's things that are not perfect, and we struggle with some things, and I'm still finding ways to be stretched, even though I feel like I've already reached that point where I should be stretched as much as I can. It's hard to to defend your faith in your own home. It's hard to not know, what the future holds for your family when things get a little bit rattled. And when you question your faith and you question everything you believe in because it's just shaking things up. I've said before about, trying to put my dream house on my vision board, about how like I got it when I was 30 or whatever. So it's 2019 and I'm pregnant with my 5-year-old now, and it's November, and Jared and I are like, man, when this baby comes, like, it's just going to take up the entire house. And we had this 3-bedroom house, 2 kids already, and it's just going to make the whole house explode. It's like baby stuff, like multiplies, there's no room for anything. So anyways, so we were like, okay, well, we're going to probably need a house, soon or whatever. Okay. It's 2 days before I'm due with Brooklyn, and we go and look at this house. And we're like, I told Jared, I was like, I can see us in this house. Like, this feels right. It was a mile down the road from us. And it's 4 acres and a pond and fully stocked pond and like beautiful 5-bedroom. Like, I could just see us living in this house. And then, I had a baby. I was just like, how are we going to do this though? Cause you don't move when you have a newborn. You'd only take one big life challenge at a time, like hopefully, or the stress is just too much. So I've got a newborn, December 18th, she's born. And then we move, we start packing. We got to change our whole house. We got to like paint it because it's this nasty yellow color and purple dark in the living room. Like, it looked more beautiful than it had the whole 4 years we lived there, right before we moved. But we changed everything. I had so many people that were helping me pack. You and mom came, right, Lindsay? Like, you and mom came and helped me pack because I was just like, had a newborn. And then it was February 8th we closed on the house. And the guy that we were moving in with, he was like, yeah, y'all can come early, come move in early. We won't be here. We're not living here. And we got our house like $20,000 less than asking price, and like, 2% mortgage or whatever. And then we closed on it February 8th. And then March, spring break happened and COVID hit. And it was like, this is insane. This is perfect. Like, okay, quarantine, I think we will. Like that was like challenge accepted. We were able to have all of that. And I think that, did you guys feel the same way when you moved and you were like, I'm so glad we did that before this crazy
The world shut
housing crazy went. Like everything shot up and everything, it was insane. But I mean, that was a scary, you don't move whenever, but it worked out because we felt like we needed to be in this house and that would be good for our family. And then we followed that we felt like we were led to do that. And then it's been wonderful and it's been a huge blessing, even though it was scary. And then the last thing that I'll share is, we were sitting in the ultrasound room and I was pregnant with my 4th pregnancy, and
last baby.
I waited a long time. I waited 10 weeks this time to go to the ultrasound room because I was like, psh, like I know it's a baby, whatever. Right. So I'm really sick. And I noticed that I knew I was pregnant like sooner than normal. Like I could see it on the thing, on the pregnancy test, like sooner than I normally would have. We're in the ultrasound room and Jared's sitting there right next to me, and they put the ultrasound tech goes in my belly, and all of a sudden pops up on the screen. There's these 2 black circles, and I knew exactly what it was. As soon as I saw it, Jared just puts his face in his hands. He knew exactly what it was, but he's just thinking, please let that be a computer glitch. Like, please tell me that wasn't what we think it is. Because he always teased people about having twins and triplets and all that stuff. So I started using I was not a godly woman in that ultrasound room. And I was like, I just used, several words, and I was just so scared. And I was just like, oh, no. And then I was like, oh, crap. And then I just said, are the babies okay? Are they okay? Like, can they fit? I was like, so I just kind of felt like it was a first pregnancy all over again, because I had no idea how my body was going to handle 2 babies. And then like going through that entire thing, it was so scary. It was like, I cannot, like my biggest fear really is like one thing happening to a twin and the other one being without a twin. Yeah. Like I know that happens to some people, but like devastating, like a shadow their whole lives, just like that would devastate me. And so I was just really scared about what would happen. And
they had to be in the NICU when they were born.
Yeah, they had to be in the NICU it was just 2 weeks, which is way less than a lot of people have. But there's nothing like leaving the hospital without your baby and having to go back with your bags of milk. And I even stayed at my parents' house, which was 2 minutes away. They were right around the corner from the hospital, which was a huge blessing, but I wasn't around my other kids. And I was postpartum, and I was just like pumping and sleeping and pumping and going to the hospital and seeing the babies, and they were tied up on all these cords and stuff. And definitely had to have faith that this was the plan and this was right for our family. And even though we felt like we couldn't handle it, that, God knew better than what we knew. And these babies are the best babies that I could have possibly hoped for. I mean, it has been so hard just having 2 of them, but they have been such a blessing to our family. And I know y'all prayed for that. I know you prayed for that. I know y'all were worried about what was going to happen when these 2 babies came. Yeah. But they are so sweet and such a blessing. So I just feel like there is beauty in seeing the after of the terrifying moments. Like there is this beauty that you have to stop and look around and enjoy it, because there's going to be another terrifying moment. There's going to be a way that you get stretched, and it's going to happen. And And that's what life is supposed to be like. It's not supposed to just be chill and you never grow, because that's not why we're here.
Yeah.
And I went to Jared one time and I was like, it's just one thing after another. I'm just so tired. It's just always something. And he's like, babe, that's life. And I was like, dang it. Why are you so smart? I hate it when you make sense. But anyways, so that was something that was really hard that I had to get through, that was really scary for me, that I was super grateful for afterwards.
But that faith carried you through it,
Yeah.
and recognizing that there's a plan.
Yeah.
I feel like there is wisdom in collecting your faith experiences and writing them down, like your own evidence journal. If you think about it, that's what the scriptures are. It's just written by a prophet that's called of God. But we all have those moments, and they can be pillars of strength for your family and for your children until they have their own pillars to build on, which is huge. So our family situation is a little unique. We spent the first 14 years of our marriage, we had a nomadic lifestyle. We were both college kids when we got married. We were juniors in college. We finished that, and then Ben really wanted to go to professional school. And so he decided he really liked chiropractic. So we moved up to St. Louis and went to school up there. We lived in a trailer park, met some of the greatest friends of our life. Had some great times, moved back to Memphis, and we thought, okay, we're going to finally get our home. And that didn't work. Did you know chiropractors are not considered doctors when it comes to banks?
Yeah.
And so you have all this student loan debt from getting your professional degree, and no one will give you a loan because you're not considered a doctor, even though you have your doctorate.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So it was really frustrating. We would rent places, and then every year, the rent just keeps going up. All we wanted was to have our own place and have our own home. So
Well, how many times did you move? And when Courtney said, who started the moving? I'm like, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably Megan.
it's probably me, because we moved like 15 times in our first 14 years.
Oh my god.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. But we were always trying to get the best deal, and we wanted to be like, as our kids got older, it was like move to where there's good schools and try, this, that, whatnot. So we get to the point finally around 2015 where we are able to find our house. And we were looking at houses and looking at houses. We knew where we wanted to be. We knew the part of town with the schools we wanted. And we go and look at houses, can't find the right one. It's like looking for months and months. And we go through this house that we had been avoiding because it was so ugly from the front, right? And so we finally walk through it. And then when I'm in this house, I just had the feeling, this is where you need to be. And I thought to myself, this place is so ugly. I don't want this for my house. I've waited 14 years to be in a house. I want it to be the house that I want.
Your dreams.
Okay, so it wasn't. But we bought it anyway because we both felt like this is where we need to be. And sometimes you make choices to get you where you need to be, even if it's not exactly where you're at. Mm-hmm. And so we move in thinking, we'll live here for 10 years. And then we're there for a year and we're like, we'll live here for 5 years. And then we're there for another year. We're like, we'll live here for 3 years. And finally, it's like 3.5, right at 3.5 years, I looked at Ben, I was like, it's time to move. And he's like, really? Yeah. When should we move? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, let's pray about it. And sometimes when I'm saying prayers, I just wait to see what comes in my mind. And the thing that kept coming in my mind was January. Like, you need to put your house up for sale in January. Well, we still had projects and stuff. We did a lot to this house. It was ugly when we moved in. We called it the beige blob. And we just did a ton. We took out a fireplace. We put all the floors down.
Why don't I remember any of this?
I don't know.
What house was it? The Arlington one?
No.
No, the Germantown one, the first one.
The first
Alder
one.
Branch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that house.
Remember the
Sorry,
fireplace
yes, you hated
with a
it.
huge
Yeah.
stone on the
Yes,
whole wall?
golly.
Yeah, so Ben did a lot of really good stuff, but Ben said, "When should we move?" And I said, "I keep feeling like we should move in January." And he's like, "Nobody does that." I'm like, "I don't know. I just know that's when we should put our house on the market." He's like, "I still have to redo the half bath." Like, well,
get
let's
on
get
it.
on it. Do it quick. Get her done. It's fine. We can do it. And by we, I mean you.
Yeah,
Like, you can do it.
you got this.
And so we put the house on the market in January, and then trying to find another house. That market at that time was so scarce that it's like a house would pop up and be gone. House would pop up and be gone. And so we found someone to buy our house. We still didn't know where we were going. I would drive around sometimes and just try and look. And I was driving on this one street. It was behind the school where my kids went to elementary school. And I remember driving on that street and I'm like, man, I feel like this is where we should live, which is weird. I had never felt like that before. There were not houses for sale on this street, but I was with my oldest child and I was like, I feel like this is where we should live. And she's like, that's really weird. You're creepy. Like, Mom, that's strange. Okay, so we go home. No lie. Literally 2 weeks later, I remember it was the week of Valentine's Day. So we have a house. We're selling it. We have nowhere to live. Valentine's Day, our realtor calls and he's like, hey, I've got a few houses. I think that one of them would work really well for you guys. It has everything you want down to a T. We walk into this house and it was like Miracle on 34th Street. Like, you walk in and you're like, oh, the floors are so pretty. Oh, the garden, like the flower beds, they're so pretty. Like everything was so nice. The people that lived there before really took care of it. You could just tell sometimes, And so we walked in, we were like, oh my goodness, this was amazing. 3 other houses went up for sale that same day. And so there weren't as many people looking at this one. And so we just put an offer right in and it got accepted.
Nice.
And it was amazing. It had everything that we could have possibly wanted. It was big enough for our family, which the other house was not. It was still close to where we wanted to be for school. It had all of the amazing things. And we closed on March 31st, 2020. And I think about that moment.
Right before the world shut down.
Yeah. We talked with our kids so many times. What if we hadn't listened? I guarantee you we'd still be in that beige house. Living our best life, but not really knowing the greatness that could have been. I think when I think of faith, I think it is about listening, learning to listen, and then from there choosing to act. And that's why it's so hard, is because we can literally spend our whole lives never caring to listen for God and see him show up in your everyday.
When he tells you to jump, you do it with both feet. You don't look back
Yeah,
because it's beautiful.
it is. But you have to ask yourself, like, you remember the story in the Bible where Jesus is beckoning Peter to come and walk on the water. He sees the Savior. He has faith to walk. But then what happens?
He lets fear take over.
Yeah. Thank goodness Jesus is there to grab us all, because we all do it. But it's times like that. It's like, learn to listen and then choose to act.
I love that story. Whenever I was first divorced, I was talking to my therapist and I was like, I've already jumped out of the boat. Like I've made this huge leap and I have followed what I felt led to do. And it's still hard. Like it's still hard. When is it going to ease up? Things are not getting better. And he said, when Peter jumped out of the boat, that wasn't the hard part. The jumping was not the hard part. It was the keep on walking. That was the hard part, was keep walking towards the Savior. I was like, oh, okay. Just remember that. You make the big leap. It may not seem easy still, but the hard part is the walking.
I love that. I love it so much.
All right, Lou.
Growing up, I wanted nothing more than to be a mom my whole life. And we struggled for a long time with having a baby. And those months that felt like years, and every month was like a disappointment. And finally, after 5 years, through inspiration and feeling inspired to go to a certain doctor and have that be the right thing, it was like we had Austin, who was such a blessing in our life. And we felt like there was another baby. And it wasn't happening again. And it took 5 years again to have Kennedy, but having that inspiration, we were praying about what to do. And I wanted to be led, and I just promised Heavenly Father that I would do whatever he asked me to do if he would bless our life with another baby, because that yearning just wouldn't go away. I just felt it so deeply. And so I had the inspiration and the impression when I was praying one day that I needed to have surgery. And so I started researching it and figuring it out, and found out I have PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that back then it was not known. Like, nobody talked about it like they talk about it now. And nobody knew what it was or what it affected. And so I had the impression that I needed to have stomach surgery, gastric bypass. And that was terrifying because that surgery is $20,000. Or it was at the time. And I remember being terrified. Did you know that there is a psychological evaluation you have to go through in order to have surgery for this? They like ask you all of these things, and it was crazy. And I remember this guy talking, and it was terrifying because he's like, it was this psych eval, and he was talking to me, and he was like, you realize you're never going to be able to have things ever again. You're never going to be able to eat. You're never going to be able to drink certain things. This is going to change your life forever. Why would you do this to yourself? What kind of I guess that's his job. And he was like, you're never going to be able to eat a big cinnamon roll sticky bun. The skinny, tall guy who's telling you this. And I looked at him in the face and I said, what you're not understanding is I'm not doing this to be skinnier. I'm doing this because I want to have a baby. And if this will fix it, it's worth everything. And I said, you can't tell me another thing with the picture of you and your 4 kids that would ever sway me from making this decision, because I knew I had God on my side and that he told me to do this. And so I jumped out of the boat and I had surgery. And I thought that was the hard part. I almost died. I don't even know if y'all knew that, because Adam almost didn't. I had to have a blood transfusion, and I almost bled out. And it was really scary. It was terrifying. And that wasn't even the hard part. The hard part was the next 6 months of everything, and the incisions and the abdominal stuff, and learning to eat food again and all that craziness. And it was 6 months past my surgery date, and we're praying, and I had lost weight, but I was so sick. And we get the impression to try to have a baby, because you had to wait a certain amount of time. And so Adam and I tried and immediately got pregnant with Kennedy. And I was even more sick because I have really sick pregnancies. And I look back on that moment, and if I didn't have the struggle, and I didn't have the impressions, and I didn't have the little tiny miracles along the way, to remember the whole purpose of what I was doing. Like I find so much fear, and I remember feeling like, what if I have this surgery and it actually doesn't work? What if I went through all of this and I don't get to have another baby? Like, what if this is it? And Austin was wonderful, and we felt so blessed, but that yearning just wouldn't go away. And so we had Kennedy, and now looking back, I'm like, because of that surgery, I was able to have Kennedy, and then 5 years later, we had Caleb. And so in those moments of following what I felt like I needed to do, nobody that I'd ever heard of did that surgery to be able to have a baby. And if you look at it on paper, it doesn't seem to make sense. Like, I'm going to have gastric bypass surgery so I can get pregnant. It doesn't, like, those things don't connect, but everything and every piece of that puzzle that we were led, and to have a friend that we met that we felt like we needed to talk to, that like was a banker and could give us a loan that we could pay down in the way that we could, like, all of these things like came together for the good of this decision, and it changed our life forever and brought us to where we are now. And I'm just, all of those things were really hard things, but I look at my kids now and I am so grateful. Like, those decisions and the infertility and the struggles, I know people that have been through that, and that experience made me be able to be compassionate to so many people that I never would have. It's changed the way I'm a mother. I have such an appreciation and a gratitude that's just a little bit different, in a different way. You know, I don't think other people can't be grateful for their kids. It's like a different way of looking at things, and it made every moment really, really important. And even though we had, right before Caleb, we had a miscarriage, it made his birth even sweeter. And so the hard things are meant to make us grow and to help us help other people, and to make the moments that happen even sweeter. It doesn't mean that we're going to be without trials. And then Caleb was born, and he had his own medical issues. And so my children have been through a lot, but I've been through more. And I had arm surgeries twice, and I had this gastric bypass, and I've had all of these things happen in my life, but I didn't know that it was preparing me for what Caleb went through and what Kennedy's gone through, and being able to be a mom that gets that whole part of them. I'm so grateful that I experienced those things so I could know what to do to be there and to help my kids in the way that they needed.
I think that's amazing. I think that in life, we're all on this journey together. There's so many times in life where you question your faith and you wonder, am I having a faith crisis? But the truth is, you're always having a faith journey. And it's through this journey that we grow and develop. Sometimes you're just starting that journey and you have uncertainty because you haven't had a lot of experiences where that faith has been tried. And sometimes you're put through the fiery furnace of faith, where you have to defend what you believe to even the people that you love the most and who you think should understand. And sometimes that faith looks like going under the knife so that you can have a family. It's amazing to me, and I hope that people listening recognize those moments in their own life where God shows up and is still holding our hand through it all, because that's what matters, is recognizing that He's there and being able to spot the little miracles that stand as a witness to what He is trying to create in your life. And there's power in that. And I'm really grateful for the lessons I've learned and that we can share them because it's important. It is really the crux of why we are here.
And if you're in the middle of your journey and you like feel like you need to do something and you're not really sure why, or if it even makes sense, and you do it anyways because you feel led to do that, there's a reason. And it's like he is putting all these puzzle pieces in the right place for you if you'll just have the faith to like take a step into the darkness until you can see what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Jump out of the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, listeners, thanks for walking this faith road with us today. We're so glad you're here and hope that you have been able to pull something out of this that can help you in your own journey. If you'd like to join the conversation, leave a comment wherever you see this and share one way that you can choose faith and to walk the road of faith. Until next time, keep striving and we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks for hanging out with us here at Southern Sisters. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to follow us on social media for more laughs, heart-to-hearts, and behind-the-scenes real life. We'd be thrilled if you subscribed to the podcast, left us a review, and shared it with your friends, because life's always better when we're on this journey together. Until next time, keep striving, keep laughing, and keep showing up. We'll see you all back here real soon.